Okay, you know what you need to do. He is ShaDoWn.
I love how whenever we find like a teamless French player, we always like look at Kirka. Like, mate, what's going on here,
mate?
And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Beckett Industries LE, we have the red Protoss player, also representing himself. It is KingCobra.
Already not the biggest of deals, but a bit of an interesting placement of his gateway. Not walling off the ramp, instead hiding it behind the mineral line.
Yeah, that he did. I'm trying to remember. Was KingCobra the player who went? Is he the player who went Tempest on Blackburn?
I believe so.
In PvT?
I know KingCobra is fond of his Tempest, but don't particularly remember the specific map or the specific matchup. PvT, that's so familiar though.
I'm just assuming that because it's what Cristiano did, and I know that he loves KingCobra with a passion. Maybe a little bit too much.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he will only be here casting later on after this series is over.
True. Shout out to Cristiano. He's going to be here for the Latin American DreamHack cast later on in a couple of hours.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. I know I'll be.
Yeah. We're going to be covering Paco Mike versus Eric, mate. The rematch. I can't wait. But that is neither here or there. We are here in our PvP. Not our only PvP of the night. I believe one of two. Not wrong.
Yeah. Later on, we're gonna have Showtime versus DNS. And a bit of a quicker Stargate comes out from KingCobra. I was gonna say he skips out on this second gateway to get a much earlier Cybercore. I was curious as to what he was gonna use it for. Not for gateway, instead for Stargate and a Robo.
What?
A Stargate and a Robo. Let me repeat that. Now, transitions from Stargates to Robos and vice versa are something that you see in a PvP, but not when neither building is complete yet. You still have to transition. That's kind of the key word in transitioning.
I want to see what the hell KingCobra is about to do right now. I'm perplexed. Oh my god. So he's going for an Oracle first here. I mean, makes sense. Also, I want to quickly check here. ShaDoWn actually scouted both tech buildings as well. He's well aware of what's coming. I don't know. I don't want to say what's coming his way. I don't know if he knows that. Yeah,
you can never really be certain in a PvP, can you? At least he knows the possibilities that can come his way.
Yeah, like, the weird thing about this is that he's skipping Warp Gate. Like, I feel like if ShaDoWn is just aggressive with all his Stalkers, KingCobra is gonna have a lot of trouble holding on. He only has a single Stalker and a single shield battery.
Yeah, no natural base either, so no battery overcharge to utilize. ShaDoWn setting up a little bit of a reinforcement point right outside the third base.
I'm just, eventually the shield battery is going to run out of energy. The Oracle is forced to come back because, again, if it doesn't come back, he's just going to straight up die. Meanwhile, so far, nice micro by ShaDoWn. He does have a proxy pylon to reinforce his army.
Yeah, already a lot of energy has been utilized from that Oracle. And ShaDoWn hasn't really taken much damage. I mean, barely any hull damage. Now one Stalker is about half health.
And this is where KingCobra is about. Or again, the power, the point of this opener is for this Immortal, and it will definitely help, like, push away this army. I'm just worried about the reinforcements. I'm worried about what happens when Blink kicks in.
Yes, it is on the way. When you get enough Stalkers and we get Blink, you can overwhelm the Immortals, especially if Guardian Shell is off cooldown.
Like, is this man gonna play like Nano? Like, is he just gonna... If you recall, so I don't know if you remember this, but Nano, he's a Brazilian player who the way he approaches, it's a different matchup, but the way he approaches PvT is that he just goes for like 4 Robo
it's
production.
Ringing a bell, yep.
Yeah, for like Mass Immortal and Mass
4
Colossus.
Robos and Colossus and a couple of force fields.
Yeah. The point being that he just has a Robo, just pure Robo essentially, and Stargate composition that he relies on. Without Warp Gate, he never got it. And likewise, KingCobra also is just completely avoiding Warp Gate entirely, just relying on Immortals for now.
Almost like he's playing Brute War.
Yeah. Like,
you got Warp in.
I'm just trying to piece this together. I'm like, is this really gonna work? Is this? It shouldn't.
Can't,
It
right?
shouldn't. It shouldn't.
But
Shouldn't
at the
is the
same time, we
word.
have 3 immortals.
Yeah, 3 immortals. I mean, that's a lot of immortals. You're not wrong.
Gonna be able to at least depower this gateway, which is something.
Yeah, he does depower it. ShaDoWn has to just give that up because with 2 immortals, that is far too much DPS to really handle. Meanwhile, at the same time, 2 oracles are getting ready to dive into the main base. Sure, there is a shield battery, but 2 oracles are enough to one-shot these probes. Thankfully, there are a couple of stalkers here ready in position.
Yeah, and Blink is about to finish up as well, so
Fleet
as fast
Beacon.
as the oracles can be, the blinks can be fasted. That,
So I wanna. Is he gonna get Immortal Tempest? Is this happening? That's gonna be it, right?
Yeah, get a couple of warriors out right now to just make use of his resources to round up his army, I suppose. But do you really want to just go Fleet Beacon on 1 Stargate?
No, that's why he's throwing down
Okay,
the
he's
2
getting
more.
second. Oh.
Yeah, he's getting 3, mate. He's.
I was convinced. He was just gonna go off. He was just gonna do this whole thing with a single Stargate.
Yeah, we'll see what he has in store for us here, as he has a lot of stasis wards sprinkled around the bases here. Again, relying on them to help defend, and he does get 4 of these stalkers.
Wow. Even with Blink, at least 1 Stalker should fall to these immortals. And he's making a 4th immortal!
He is. Yeah, just mass immortal. Let's go. At the same time, I'm waiting to see what's going to come out of these Stargates, because the Fleet Beacon is done. I don't know what he's waiting for. Oh, they're not Tempest carriers.
Huh. In a PvP?
You and I, we're like shocked, or at least I'm just shook by what we're seeing right now. But again, this is the first time I'm casting KingCobra, so like, does he do this all the time? Maybe he does. Maybe this is just how he plays this matchup. But the thing is that ShaDoWn doesn't necessarily have an answer to this. I mean, he does have Blink, to be fair, and +1.
Yeah, and in low numbers, these Blink Stalkers can be absolutely devastating to the carriers. That's why it's so important for ShaDoWn to catch KingCobra while he's mid-transition. Already doing a very good job of keeping him on 2 bases, as ShaDoWn gets a 4th.
Yeah, and this is what I was worried about. Nice target fire. 1 immortal already goes down. The second is going down as well. Again, there's plenty here to 2-shot whatever KingCobra has, and he's just losing everything.
Oh! Not if he gets stasis warded, though.
That was an expensive hold, though.
It really was. 2 immortals already getting taken out. ShaDoWn only losing a couple of stalkers, even picking off the probes as they try desperately to get a 3rd base. ShaDoWn's trying to time this out where he can attack the immortals as well with every single one of his stalkers.
Exactly, and there we go. ShaDoWn comes in. Ooh, will lose a couple of these stalkers on the retreat, but ShaDoWn, it doesn't matter, because you know what he wants? He just wants to keep KingCobra on 2 bases. He has a 3rd. He's getting a 4th. Fully saturated already. Look at the worker counts. KingCobra, he desperately needs a 3rd, but if he never gets it, then this high-tech army is never gonna work.
Really won't. He can get a ton of carriers, but then he has to start worrying about the interceptors. They do cost money to build.
Exactly, and KingCobra doesn't have a bank. He's really struggling to spend his money or to make an army right now.
That he is. Nice little pick off on that stasis ward. ShaDoWn just waiting for his +2, it seems. I totally think he can fight at least the carriers, but doesn't really want to risk it unnecessarily.
Yeah, right now I feel like ShaDoWn just has to wait for him for Archons. The Templar Archives just finished up, so now he can morph in some High Templar, he can get some Archons. Archons are going to be amazing against all these Interceptors.
I don't think we mentioned it, but ShaDoWn has reestablished his reinforcement point. A ton more gateways were thrown down there as well, so yeah, Archons are going to be on the front line very, very quickly.
That they are. Meanwhile, these Stalkers are trying to find another weak point in the defenses of KingCobra. Again, this 3rd base about to finish up. It's so important for him to get this up and running.
And I'm not entirely convinced he will.
We shall see. At the same time, 2 Oracles do get into the natural base, and they get a couple of probes.
Not too bad. I mean, ShaDoWn is still up about 20 workers, but it's something.
It is something. Meanwhile, we have a bit of a zealot run by head towards the natural base. KingCobra, the problem with this army as well is that it's very high-tech, and he doesn't have a lot of it. So splitting up your army is so difficult for him, and the zealots get it. They just walk into the main.
Definitely take out the production there. And yeah, as you were saying, the high-tech army, there's not enough of it to split up. It's also a very slow army. So KingCobra is sort of being driven back and forth. The very exposed shield battery does get taken out. Zealots will be dealt with, but that's kind of the point right now. ShaDoWn is more than willing to give up his Zealots if it means that the key units, the Stalkers and the Archons, can live a little longer.
Exactly, and just like that, ShaDoWn, he takes down the third base. He eviscerates a lot of mineralized. 9 workers do go down. The Zealots get on top of the Immortals as well. And there's no overcharge.
That there is not. Should be able to take out the Immortals. The Interceptors might still be a little scary, especially when there aren't that many Stalkers out. But ShaDoWn, he's got a bit of a gas bank. He can warp in even more High Templars. He can morph them into Archons anytime he wishes.
Exactly, and I just feel like ShaDoWn, he can do whatever he wants at this point. He's just so rich. He has so much money to work with. He's getting a 5th base up and running. And just like that, he distracts the carriers on one side and dives in and just gets another mineral line.
Just like that.
Just like that. Yo, the carriers are exposed!
No buffer around for these carriers. Battery overcharge is popped, but there's enough DPS to start two-shotting these carriers. I think the Oracles are actually being targeted by the overcharge, which definitely doesn't help.
No, it does not. GG gets called, and ShaDoWn takes game number 1.
That was the Beckett game.
That was the Beckett game.
I'm still scratching my head here.
What did we just watch, mate? What just happened? What was that? StarCraft?
It was a spiritual journey.
Oh my!
I'm sure the Cobra cult will tell us.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. I can't say I've ever seen a PvP quite like that. Like, there are a couple of things that came into play there. Probably the biggest thing is that because KingCobra never got Warp Gate, when we saw those run-bys in the main base and the natural base, he never had the opportunity to warp in to defend. To be fair, he never had any gateways to do so, but like that's like the purpose of that, you know, that's why this is meta.
Yeah.
You know, like in case you're in a scenario like this, you need to be able to utilize the warp in mechanic for Protoss to be able to respond to these harassments. But not KingCobra.
Apparently not. And that is partially why he has such a reputation behind him.
Exactly.
He is, I would argue, straight up the most stylistic Protoss player out there.
Yeah, he just does his own thing, and it's one of those things where we have to admit and we have to say, you know what? It works because, hey, KingCobra's here in DreamHack, you know? he's here. He is straight up whether you like it or not, he's one of the best players in Europe.
Whoa, does that make KingCobra the Protoss Siggy?
Maybe. That could be very apt.
It really could. I'd be terrified of an Archon of those two, or a 2v2 team.
I feel like it just wouldn't work, right? Like, I don't... if
Well...
Opposites attract, right?
You mean they just balance each other out?
Yeah.
The result would just be the most standard player in the world. But with that, that was game number 1 on Beckett Industries. We are now spawning into a completely different map, the complete opposite, if you will. Romanticide LE. We're in the bottom right-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the bottom right-hand corner. The blue Protoss player come down from France. He is currently teamless. He is ShaDoWn.
And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Romanticide LE, we have the red Protoss player himself, currently teamless. It is KingCobra.
Show us what you've got. As this time he does position his buildings a bit more standard. I wanted to say opens up a lot more standard, but that's still to be determined, isn't it?
I'm really curious. What I will say is that I feel like that build that he went for, or that composition, would work so much better on Romanticide. That's why I was shocked that he was going immortal carrier like that on Beckett, because Beckett is the map where you can be the most aggressive on, and we saw ShaDoWn just utilize that to the fullest of his advantages.
That we did, and I mean, even then it was not necessarily tough, but he did have to be a little bit patient. He couldn't afford to just throw his stalkers into the mix. He did have to find the gaps in KingCobra's armor. And this time on Romanticide, he has plenty of time to fill in those gaps, not solely because the rush distance is that much larger and that much longer to make it across the map, but also because Romanticide lends itself really well to just turtling up with cannons. Like, look at these high ground bases.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's so much easier to get a third base here on this map, even a fourth base as well. I'm just worried that KingCobra kind of showed his hand a little bit in game number 1. I would hope that he doesn't go for something similar in game number 2, because, again, it's more of the same, and ShaDoWn is already in the mental mindset to counter that sort of thing. He's doing it.
It's worth saying.
He's doing it again.
Well then,
is this all he does? I need confirmation from the chat.
Be.
Is this all he does in PvP?
It can't be.
Is it?
We'll find out in 2 minutes after the lay finishes catches up.
Oh my god! Shout out to Saberlight, by the way, in the chat.
Yep.
Yeah, Latin America, mate. KingCobra shows up.
What
Latin America shows up. Yeah. Let's go.
He is one of the high priests, isn't he?
He is.
In the Cobra cult. What is Cristiano's role in there?
We're about to find out. I don't know if he's a supporter or
Choir
a
boy.
Oh my god. We'll find out. As the Robo is about to finish up again, so now we have a little bit of a better idea. I would love to see a different spin on things here, for KingCobra to like juke his opponent, because if we look at ShaDoWn, he once again scattered everything. He saw the Stargate and he saw the Robo.
Already focusing entirely on Stalkers, and we were talking a lot about how the rush distance of Romanticide generally favors the defensive player because of how long it is, but when you're going as Stalker heavy as ShaDoWn was last game, all you need is a reinforcing pylon, and you kind of solve that problem.
That's the power of Protoss, mate. It's the power of Protoss, and so far some nice target firing here by KingCobra, again trying to punish ShaDoWn as much as possible, but the probe does go down, so will the shield battery, so will the pylon, but the Immortal will be enough to push this away eventually. Oh, never mind!
Yeah, the Immortal should get up, but ShaDoWn has an opportunity to go into the base and mess up a mineral line if he so desires. Decides to play it a lot more cautious. I say that as more Stalkers get warped in. What do we tell you? This is the power of Protoss.
It's over.
Please tell KingCobra about this power. The amazing abilities of Warp Gate.